The Labor Department says another 3.8 million people filed for unemployment benefits last week, bringing the total over the last 6 weeks to more than 30 million.
Really, those numbers are just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and they're a little higher than the projection, which was about 3.5 million. 3.84 million of our neighbors and our friends, our fellow Americans, filed for unemployment. As Mika said, that number now over just the last 6 weeks is more than 30 million people. There are 328 million people in this country, so you can do the math on that. You're pushing 10% of Americans in the last 6 weeks who've lost their jobs. Let's talk more about this with senior fellow at University of Virginia Miller Center, Chris Lu. He served as Deputy Secretary of Labor in the Obama administration, although also with his longtime investment banker and chairman and founder of the firm P.J. Solomon, Peter Solomon. He's advised numerous companies on all corners of the retail sector, in addition to serving as director of more than 10 public companies. Chris, let me start with you just on these numbers. 3.84 million. These are people. These aren't statistics. This is happening in our country right now. A lot of people hurting. Do you see this slowing down anytime soon?
You know, I think we're going to see these numbers elevated for the foreseeable future. To put this in context, even this 3.8 million figure, which is lower than what we've seen in previous weeks, is still 6 times higher than what we saw during the Great Recession. And these 30 million people out of work essentially wipes out all of the jobs created since the Great Recession, and then several million more on top of that. I think the problem is that these numbers even underrepresent the severity of the problem. We continue to hear of people not being able to navigate the state unemployment insurance systems. We continue to hear about people not being able to get their benefits. In Florida now, 6 weeks after this crisis has started, less than 50% of people who have applied have even gotten money. And the problem is in even the states that are going to start to open up, they're going to be operating under necessary health restrictions. And the challenge is, can businesses operate with those restrictions? Can a restaurant open when tables have to be 6 feet apart, when you have to have when you have to practice social distancing, you can only occupy 25% of capacity. A lot of restaurants might say, you know what, we're not going to open. And then that trickles down to the workers at that restaurant as well.
And Chris, you can put this together with the GDP number we got yesterday, that the economy contracted in the first quarter by nearly 5%. Projections for the second quarter expect to be much, much higher than that, maybe 30 to 40% contraction there. So I guess the question is, as this new legislation passes through Congress and we get phase 3 and phase 4 to come, can the government really do anything to stop the bleeding on this? I mean, it can manage 2 weeks of payroll for a small business and get you that far, but this is a longer term problem than perhaps most people are ready to tackle.
Yeah, it sure is. And I think it speaks to the importance of having additional relief go into the system. You know, the enhanced unemployment benefits that were passed earlier only go to the end of July. This crisis will not be ending in the end of July. We continue to hear problems with the PPP small business program. And then this ongoing battle right now about funding for state and local governments. If that money doesn't go, you're going to see another wave of layoffs of police and firefighters and teachers. And so this is first and foremost a public health crisis, and it's incumbent upon people in Washington to provide that economic relief, not stimulus, so that we can continue to flatten this curve. Once we get out of that, that's when we can really start talking about what stimulus we need to get the economy back up and running.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.